When a decorated Navy SEAL is gunned down during a routine traffic stop, his 9-year-old daughter becomes the only witness. But as his sister and old teammates dig deeper, they uncover a chilling web of corruption that stretches from small-town police to the nation's highest offices. And justice demands blood. Before we begin, hit subscribe to Black Battles, where every story hits harder than truth itself. The night in Hollow Ridge was the kind of quiet that felt unnatural, too still, too heavy, as if the air itself was holding its breath. A thick mist drifted over the 2-lane road, cutting through the pine woods, where Ethan Cole's old blue pickup rolled steadily under the dim glow of the moon. Inside the truck, the faint hum of country radio played beneath the engine's sound. Maya, his 9-year-old daughter, was half asleep in the passenger seat, her small head resting against the window. Her father's jacket was wrapped around her shoulders. She always said it smelled like oil and sunshine. Ethan glanced at her and smiled. Moments like this made everything else fade. The long hours at his garage, the constant whispers about his past as a Navy SEAL, and the recent threats he had started to receive after asking the wrong questions in town. He'd uncovered something. Though he hadn't told Maya, he couldn't. But he had promised himself that whatever was happening near the Helios Defense Facility by the river, whatever poison they were, dumping, he would expose it. A pair of headlights appeared in the rearview mirror, growing closer. Ethan frowned. It was late, past 11, and there weren't many cars on this stretch of road. The headlights stayed behind him for a mile, then flashed red and blue. Ethan exhaled slowly. "Easy now," he murmured. "Just a traffic stop." He pulled over to the gravel shoulder. The cruiser parked behind him, lights still flashing, painting the forest in alternating strokes of crimson and blue. Maya stirred. "Daddy, what's happening?" "Nothing, baby. Stay calm. Just a quick check." Ethan placed both hands on the steering wheel the way he always did. His military discipline hadn't left him. He knew how to follow procedure, but something felt wrong tonight. The air outside was too silent, and the officer approaching wasn't alone. 2 figures stepped out of the cruiser, one tall, heavy-set man and another slightly shorter with a flashlight in hand. When the taller one spoke, his voice carried arrogance instead of authority. "Evening. You know why we pulled you over?" "No, sir," Ethan replied calmly. "I wasn't speeding." The officer's flashlight swept across the truck's interior, landing briefly on Maya's face before blinding Ethan. "License and registration." Ethan handed them over without a word. The second officer circled around the back of the truck, shining his light inside the bed, as if searching for something specific. The taller officer studied Ethan's ID, smirking. "Cole, huh? Former Navy SEAL? Didn't know heroes liked breaking the law." Ethan's stomach tightened. "I haven't broken any laws, officer." The man leaned closer, his breath thick with tobacco. "Then maybe you won't mind us taking a look inside that truck." Ethan's voice remained steady, but his heart began to pound. "Not without a warrant. I have my daughter with me." For a moment there was silence. Then the taller officer stepped back, hand drifting toward his holster. "Get out of the vehicle, sir." "Officer, please. I said out." Maya's eyes widened in fear. "Daddy?" Ethan opened the door slowly, keeping his hands visible. "It's okay, Maya. Just stay right there, okay?" He stepped out, the gravel crunching under his boots. The other officer came around, hand already resting on his weapon. Ethan stood still, calm but tense. "What's this about?" Ethan asked. "Routine check," the taller one said. "We got a report about a vehicle matching this description involved in suspicious activity." Ethan almost laughed at the absurdity, but something inside him froze when he saw the second officer pull a small plastic bag from his pocket, a bag filled with white powder, and drop it near the driver's seat. Ethan's eyes widened. "What the hell are you doing?" "Looks like we found something," the officer said coldly. "That's not mine," Ethan said firmly. "You know damn well it's not mine, sir." "Step back," the officer barked, drawing his gun. Ethan lifted his hands, his military training kicking in. No sudden moves, no resistance. But fear sliced through him as he saw Maya's face pressed against the window. Crying silently, then everything happened in seconds. The second officer shouted, "He's reaching!" A flash of panic lit their eyes. Ethan barely turned his head before a gunshot cracked the night open. The sound echoed across the trees, scattering birds into the darkness. Ethan's body jerked, then fell hard against the gravel. Maya screamed, a raw, piercing sound that shattered the stillness. She threw open the door and ran to her father, kneeling beside him, her tiny hands trembling as she tried to shake him awake. His blood stained her sleeves. "Daddy! Please get up!" The officers stood frozen. One lowered his weapon. The other muttered, He reached for something. But there had been no weapon, no threat, only a father trying to protect his daughter. Maya's eyes fell on the gun holster still on her father's belt, a registered sidearm he always carried but never reached for. Slowly, she picked it up, her hands shaking violently. When she turned, the flashlight beams wavered. "Stay back," she screamed, her voice cracking. "You killed him." The officers hesitated. For the first time that night, fear was in their eyes. Not from danger, but from what they had just done. A single camera light blinked from the edge of the road, one of the dash cams from a passing trucker who had stopped, recording everything. Somewhere deep in the woods, the echo of that gunshot lingered, refusing to fade. And from that moment, Hollow Ridge would never sleep peacefully again. Morning came to Hollow Ridge in a cruel, quiet way. The town awoke to whispers that spread faster than the sun rose. By the time the first light touched the courthouse steps, every diner booth and gas station had its own version of the story. Former SEAL shot dead after pulling a gun on police. Drug possession. Resisted arrest, another tragedy. But the cops said he reached. But the truth was locked away in a police report filled with lies, and a 9-year-old girl's memory that refused to forget. At the edge of town, in a small hospital room, Maya Cole sat silently by the window, her knees pulled to her chest. She hadn't spoken since last night. Her face was pale, her eyes red. Nurses whispered as they passed her door. They called it shock, but it wasn't just shock. It was disbelief, the kind only a child who had seen evil could carry. Across the room, Clara Cole, Ethan's older sister, stood frozen with her phone in hand, her breath shallow. The words on the news screen stabbed like knives. Ethan Cole, former Navy SEAL, fatally shot during traffic stop. She scrolled further, trembling. The headline beneath it was worse. Narcotics found in vehicle. Clara's hands began to shake. "They planted it," she whispered to herself. "They planted everything." She pressed her palms over her face and took a long, unsteady breath. Clara was an attorney, sharp, relentless, and unafraid. But this was personal. The law was supposed to protect people like Ethan. Now it was being used to bury him. She looked at Maya, then at the door as a familiar figure appeared. Jordan Reed, Ethan's best friend and former SEAL teammate. His beard was rough, his eyes sleepless, and his jacket still carried the smell of the road. He had driven all night from Louisiana the moment he saw the news. When he saw Clara, his expression cracked. "Tell me it's not true," he said quietly. Clara just shook her head. "They killed him, Jordan. In front of Maya." Jordan's jaw tightened, a vein pulsing at his temple. "What reason?" "They said he had drugs. That he reached for a weapon." Jordan exhaled bitterly. Ethan wouldn't even raise his voice, let alone his hand. "You know that." "I do," Clara said, her voice trembling. "But they'll make people believe it." "They always do." Jordan stepped closer to the window. From the hospital parking lot, he could see 2 black SUVs idling near the entrance. Unmarked. Tinted. Watching. He didn't need to ask who they were. He turned to Clara. "You need to get her out of here now." Clara frowned. "What are you talking about?" This wasn't a random stop. He was being followed for weeks. He found something near the Helios defense plant. Documents, maybe footage. Whatever it was, it scared the wrong people. And now they're cleaning up. Clara's heart sank. She remembered Ethan mentioning strange trucks near the river, his suspicion that someone was dumping chemicals into the water. She'd told him to be careful. He had smiled, said he could handle it. Now he was gone. That afternoon, the Hollow Ridge Police Department held a press conference. Cameras flashed as Captain Dean Holloway stepped to the podium, his face stone cold, his tone rehearsed. Last night, during a routine traffic stop, Mr. Ethan Cole resisted arrest and reached for a firearm. Officers responded in accordance with standard procedure. "Our department extends its condolences to the Cole family." Reporters shouted questions. One asked, "Was his daughter present?" Holloway hesitated for half a breath. Yes, unfortunately. The child is safe and receiving care. Another voice pressed. Were body cams active? This time Holloway's expression hardened. That's under review. The footage is being processed. Lies, Jordan thought, watching the broadcast from his truck outside. He'd already spoken to a trucker who had witnessed the shooting, the man whose dash cam had caught everything. But by morning, that trucker had vanished. His motel room was empty. His phone disconnected. Jordan's phone buzzed. A private message. Unknown sender. Stop digging, Reed, or you'll join him. He stared at the screen, jaw set. Then he deleted the message and started the engine. Back at Clara's apartment, Maya finally spoke for the first time. Her voice was barely a whisper. He didn't do anything, Aunt Clara. He just wanted to go home. Clara knelt beside her, tears in her eyes. I know, sweetheart. I know. They shot him. And they said he reached. Clara's breath caught. Maya, did you see what happened? Maya nodded slowly, trembling. He had his hands up. They said he had something, but he didn't. I saw the man drop a bag near the seat. Daddy didn't even move. The child's words felt like thunder inside Clara's chest. She hugged her tightly. I promise you, Maya, they won't get away with this. Outside, a low rumble grew louder, motorcycles. 3 of them stopped near the building. Jordan's allies, former SEALs, men Ethan had once called brothers. Jordan entered, his expression grim but focused. We can't fight this through the courts alone. They'll bury every trace before morning. Clara stood, wiping her tears. So what's the plan? Jordan looked at her with the calm fire of a soldier who had nothing left to lose. We find what Ethan found. The files, the proof, the names. If we show the world what they're hiding, they won't be able to silence us all. Clara glanced at Maya, asleep now on the couch, holding her father's dog tag in her hand. Then we do this for him, she said softly. For truth. For Hollow Ridge. That night, thunder rolled across the hills as rain began to fall. In the dark, Jordan parked near the edge of the river where Ethan had once worked. The water shimmered faintly under the stormlight, carrying traces of something unnatural, a chemical sheen spreading like oil. He knelt by the bank, dipped a small vial into the water, and sealed it. His reflection stared back, tired, broken, but resolute. Whatever you found, brother, he whispered, we'll finish it. In the distance, a pair of headlights flickered. Someone was watching. Jordan stood, hand instinctively moving to his holster. The storm howled through the trees, drowning out the sound of the first engine revving toward him. The hunt for the truth had begun. The rain hadn't stopped since midnight. It poured down the slopes of Hollow Ridge like the sky was mourning Ethan Cole, too. The river swelled under the storm, its muddy surface reflecting the occasional flash of lightning. Somewhere in the darkness, Jordan Reed moved quietly along the bank, scanning the water with a flashlight wrapped in cloth to dim its glow. He was soaked, cold, and running on nothing but coffee and fury. But he couldn't stop. Ethan had died trying to uncover something. Buried here, something the town wasn't meant to. See, Jordan's boots sank into the wet. Soil as he reached the spot Ethan had marked on his old GPS tracker. A rusted metal bridge just downstream from the Helios defense plant. Below the bridge, barrels lay half buried in the mud, their faded hazard symbols barely visible under grime. A sour chemical smell stung the air. Jordan crouched and pried open a loose panel with a crowbar. Inside was a sealed military-grade container. His heart began to pound. He'd seen containers like this before, used for classified storage during deployment. He unscrewed the latch, and inside were 2 things, a small waterproof drive and a notebook wrapped in plastic. Ethan's handwriting covered the first page. If you're reading this, it means they got to me. The water isn't safe, Jordan. Helios is using the plant to dump chemical waste from Project Iron Veil. A military contract gone wrong. They're killing the town, covering it up and paying the cops to keep quiet. Jordan's throat tightened. He flipped to the next page. Coordinates, names, shipment schedules, all coded but familiar to anyone who had served with Ethan. He closed the book and whispered, "You really did it, brother." Then the headlights cut through the rain. He froze. A black SUV rolled up silently, its lights slicing through the mist. Jordan grabbed the notebook and the drive, slipping behind the bridge pillars. 2 men stepped out, both in plain clothes, both armed. Check under the bridge, one said into his earpiece. Our contact says Reed might come here. Jordan recognized the voice. It was Detective Wyatt Lang, one of Hollow Ridge's most feared officers, loyal to Captain Holloway, the kind who made people disappear. Jordan's jaw clenched. He knew what he had to do. As the men split directions, Jordan waited for the right moment, then slipped quietly through the shadows. His truck was parked a quarter-mile away, if he could reach it before they saw him. But then a beam of light swept across the bridge. There, Lang shouted. Gunfire cracked through the rain. Bullets tore through the railings as Jordan sprinted into the trees, mud splashing under his boots. He dove behind an old oak, returning fire with precision, not to kill, but to distract. He hit the gas tank of the SUV and flames erupted, forcing the men to retreat. Jordan didn't wait to see the rest. He ran until the forest swallowed the light and sound. By dawn, he was at Clara's apartment, drenched, breathing hard. Clara opened the door, alarmed by his state. Jordan, what happened? They were waiting at the river, he said, tossing the waterproof bag onto the table. But Ethan left us this. Clara unfolded the notebook, her eyes scanning the pages. He documented everything, she whispered. Chemical names, delivery routes, even dates on. Jordan connected the drive to her laptop. Files opened one after another. Photographs of dumping sites, shipping manifests, audio recordings between Helios executives and local officials. One voice stood out clearly. Keep the samples moving through Hollow Ridge. Holloway's boys will handle the patrols. Knox will make sure the EPA stays blind. Clara's eyes widened. That's Senator Knox. And Holloway, Jordan said grimly. They're both in this up to their necks. She stared at the screen in disbelief. This isn't just local corruption. It's federal level, Jordan nodded. And that's why Ethan was silenced. Meanwhile, across town, Captain Dean Holloway was losing his composure. His office was thick with cigarette smoke as he slammed the morning report onto his desk. You're telling me Reed escaped? He barked. Lang nodded nervously. He had help. Probably the Reaper unit. They've been talking again online. One of them, Travis Kane, was spotted at a gas station outside town. Holloway's face hardened. Then it's time to remind them who's in control. He picked up his phone and dialed. Senator Knox. Yes, we have a problem. Cole's old team is sniffing around. I can contain it, but I'll need clearance to move quietly. A pause. Then Holloway nodded. Understood. I'll make it disappear. When he hung up, he looked out the window at the rain-soaked town. No one digs up Hollow Ridge, he muttered. That evening, Jordan met with Travis Kane and Liam Porter, two of Ethan's former SEAL brothers. They gathered in an old warehouse at the edge of town, away from cameras and eyes. The air smelled of rust and diesel. The men greeted each other with silent nods. No words needed. Travis broke the silence. He died because of this, didn't he? Jordan nodded. And they're going to bury him as a criminal unless we stop them. Liam clenched his fists. Then we go loud. Take it public. Make the world see what Hollow Ridge really is. Not yet, Jordan said firmly. We do this the right way. No violence, no war. We get the proof out first. Clara entered with her laptop, placing it on a crate. I'm working with a contact at a national news outlet, she said. If we can verify this evidence, they'll broadcast it live. But we need solid confirmation first. Travis looked up. Where? The Helios plant, Clara said. Ethan mentioned an underground storage area, where the waste is processed before dumping. If we can film that, it's over. Jordan stared at the floor for a moment, then raised his head. Then that's our next move. He looked at the photo of Ethan pinned on the wall, a smiling man in uniform with his arm around Maya. You gave your life for the truth, he said quietly. Now we'll finish what you started. Outside, the rain finally stopped. But the air still felt heavy, charged with the kind of silence that came before a storm. Unseen in the darkness, a drone buzzed above the warehouse roof, its camera blinking red. Someone was watching. The night was cold and soundless when the Reaper unit gathered for the first time in years. Inside the dimly lit warehouse on the outskirts of Hollow Ridge, 4 men stood in a circle beneath the flicker of a single hanging bulb. Soldiers once bound by war, now reunited by loss. At the center of the table lay Ethan's Navy badge, his dog tags, and the small waterproof drive he had died protecting. Jordan Reed placed his hand on the table. His eyes were hollow but fierce. "You all know why we're here," he said quietly. "Ethan was more than a brother. He died trying to stop something bigger than any of us imagined. We finish what he started, no matter the cost." Travis Kane, the team's tactical expert, nodded. "I've scouted the Helios defense compound. They've got guards, motion sensors, the works. But there's a weak point: service tunnels near the east filtration tanks. If Ethan's files are right, that's where the dumping operation starts." Liam Porter, the tech specialist, leaned forward, flipping open his laptop. "And I can override their security feeds for about 15 minutes. That's all we get before the system flags us." Clara Cole, who stood beside them with her arms crossed, looked from one man to another. "You're talking about breaking into a federal defense facility. If you're caught," Jordan met her gaze. "If we do nothing, Ethan dies a liar. If we succeed, we expose the truth. I can live with one of those outcomes." She hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Then let's make sure his death means something." By the next night, the plan was in motion. Rain lashed the Helios compound as the Reapers moved silently through the trees, dressed in black, their movements precise and wordless. The rhythmic patter of rain masked their footsteps as they approached the fence line. Jordan's voice came softly through the earpiece. "East gate clear. Liam, cut the power." "Copy that." A spark flashed in the darkness as Liam clipped a junction box. The surrounding floodlights blinked once, then died. "Go," Jordan ordered. They scaled the fence, landing in unison. Travis led them through the drainage ditch toward the tunnel entrance, a rusted metal hatch half buried in mud. He pried it open with a muffled grunt. The smell that rose up was thick, chemical, and wrong. They climbed down into the tunnels, narrow, damp corridors lined with pipes humming faintly. The deeper they went, the stronger the stench became. Travis lifted his flashlight, and what they saw froze them. Dozens of large containers, each marked with the same faded symbol, a skull over a radiation sign. Greenish liquid seeped from cracked barrels into the water channels running beneath the plant. Liam began recording on a small camera. "This is it," he whispered. "Proof." Jordan knelt beside one of the barrels, scraping off the label. "Ironvale 47, he read. "Same compound Ethan wrote about." Clara's voice came through the comm line from her laptop at the safe house. "Ironvale was banned 10 years ago. Causes neurological damage after minimal exposure. If Helios has been dumping this into the river..." Jordan finished her sentence grimly. "Then Hollow Ridge has been poisoned for years." He turned toward the main pipe system. "Let's get the evidence and get out." A voice echoed down the tunnel. "You boys really couldn't leave well enough alone, could you?" They froze. From the shadows, flashlights flickered on. Half a dozen armed guards in tactical gear appeared, weapons raised. Behind them stood Captain Dean Holloway, his uniform damp, his smirk cruel. "Well, well," Holloway said. "The Reaper unit. Thought you boys retired." Jordan straightened slowly. "You killed an innocent man. You framed him, and now you're poisoning his town. That's what you call protecting the community?" Holloway chuckled. "Community? I protect interests, Reed, the kind that pays the bills. And your friend?" He dug where he shouldn't have. "You're about to make the same mistake." Travis's hand inched toward his sidearm. "You won't walk out of here if you pull that trigger." "Oh, I won't have to," Holloway said. "Because when this place goes up, it'll look like an accident." He raised his hand, signaling his men. Before they could fire, the tunnel lights flickered, then burst into darkness. A loud clang echoed as Jordan smashed the emergency valve, releasing a spray of chemical mist that filled the air. Visibility dropped to 0. "Move!" Jordan barked. Gunfire erupted, echoing off the concrete walls. The Reapers returned fire in controlled bursts, using the chaos to retreat. Travis tossed a smoke grenade to cover their exit. "Go, go!" Liam shouted, clutching the camera. They scrambled through the tunnels, choking on fumes until the faint light of the exit came into view. Jordan was the last out, pulling the hatch shut behind him. Explosions rumbled deep below. The pressure valves had blown. Flames rose behind them as they disappeared into the woods. Hours later, back at the safe house, Clara watched the footage on her laptop, tears in her eyes. This is undeniable," she whispered. "The dumping, the compound labels, even Holloway's voice." Jordan wiped the mud from his hands. Send it to every outlet that'll listen. If we can't trust the police, we'll go to the people. Clara nodded, uploading the files. I'm encrypting everything. Even if they find us, the truth will already be out there. But as the progress bar reached 40%, her laptop screen glitched, then froze. Liam leaned over her shoulder. That's not good. The next second, the entire screen went black, replaced by a blinking red message. Access terminated, unauthorized breach detected. Then another line appeared. We warned you. Now you're next. A sharp crash came from the back of the building, glass shattering. Clara gasped. Jordan drew his weapon instantly. Get her out! He barked. Liam grabbed Clara's arm. The side exit, go! Outside, the night exploded with sirens and flashing lights. Jordan fired a warning shot into the air to draw attention away from Clara. Go! He shouted again. She and Liam disappeared into the woods as the Reapers held the line. For the first time since Ethan's death, Jordan felt it, the weight of the oath they'd once taken. No man left behind. Now it meant something new. No truth left buried. He looked toward the burning sky above the Helios plant, jaw tight. You can bury a man, he muttered, but not his mission. The following morning, Hollow Ridge awoke to chaos. The local news showed flames swallowing half of the Helios defense facility. Reporters spoke of a chemical accident, while police sealed the area and repeated the same phrase. No foul play suspected. But those who lived near the river knew better. The air smelled metallic, the water ran black, and the silence of the police told everyone that truth had just been buried under fire and smoke. Miles away, Clara Cole gripped the steering wheel of her car, driving down a back road with Maya asleep in the passenger seat. Mud still stained her jacket from last night's escape. Every sound, a truck passing, a crow cawing, made her pulse quicken. Beside her sat Liam Porter, hunched over his laptop, trying to recover what the hackers had erased. Half the data's gone, he muttered. They scrubbed the servers clean before I could finish the upload. Clara's voice trembled. So everything Ethan risked his life for? Not everything, Liam interrupted, glancing at her. The footage from the tunnels is intact. But the files tying Knox and Holloway to the chemical shipments, corrupted. Clara slammed her hand against the steering wheel. We had them. Proof, voice recordings, everything. Liam sighed. We'll get them again. Jordan's still out there. Her expression softened slightly at the mention of Jordan. He won't stop, she said quietly. Even if it kills him. Liam gave a half smile. That's what worries me. Meanwhile, in a small cabin hidden deep in the woods, Jordan Reed and Travis Kane sat in silence, bandaging their wounds. The ambush at the safe house had left them both bruised, but alive. Jordan's right arm was grazed by a bullet, but he didn't flinch as Travis tightened the wrap. They knew exactly where we were, Travis said. Somebody gave us up. Jordan's eyes darkened. Inside man? Maybe. Or maybe they've got eyes everywhere. Drones, surveillance, informants. Holloway has connections. Jordan looked out the window at the rain-soaked trees. We can't run forever. We take the fight to them, Travis frowned. You're talking war, brother. Jordan shook his head. No, I'm talking the truth. Ethan died for it. We've got one shot left. He reached into his jacket and pulled out Ethan's dog tags. He wanted justice. We'll give him that. At the same time, back in the polished halls of the state capitol, Senator Bradley Knox stood before a window overlooking the city. He spoke quietly into his phone, voice cold and precise. Containment failed, he said. Yes, the Reapers have the footage. No, it hasn't gone public yet. Holloway assured me he'll handle it. A pause. He turned away from the glass. No, the girl doesn't matter. She's just a witness. But the sister, Clara, she's the problem. She's got the legal brain and the public sympathy. Make sure they disappear before the story spreads. He ended the call and straightened his tie, his reflection cold and calculating. Ethan Cole thought he could expose a giant, he murmured. He forgot giants always step on ants. By nightfall, Clara and Liam reached an abandoned farmhouse outside Jackson County, a safe house Jordan had arranged years ago. It was old, quiet, but far from Hollow Ridge. Clara helped Maya to bed, tucking her in with a blanket that smelled faintly of cedar. We'll be okay here, she whispered. Maya nodded sleepily. Will Daddy see us soon? Clara's chest tightened. Not yet, sweetheart. But he's watching over you. When Maya fell asleep, Clara joined Liam in the next room. He was staring at his laptop screen, pale. "What is it?" she asked. Liam hesitated. "I traced the hack that wiped our data. Came from inside a police network, but it wasn't Holloway's system." "Then whose?" He turned the screen toward her. A list of IP addresses filled the display. The top one line blinked. Origin, Jackson County Sheriff's Office. Clara's eyes widened. "They found us." The window shattered before she could move. Gunfire ripped through the night, splintering wood and glass. Clara and Liam dove to the floor as bullets shredded the walls. Maya screamed from the next room. Clara crawled toward her, shouting, "Stay down!" Liam grabbed his pistol, firing a few rounds back through the window. "We've got 2 shooters outside." Jordan's voice suddenly came through Clara's earpiece, distorted but urgent. "Clara, you've been compromised. Get Maya and move." "How did they?" "Doesn't matter. I'm 2 miles out. Hold your ground." A truck engine roared in the distance. Headlights slashed across the field. Clara pulled Maya close, shielding her as glass exploded above them. Liam kept firing until his magazine clicked empty. "Out," he yelled. Clara looked at Maya's terrified face and whispered, "It's going to be okay, baby." But her own heart didn't believe it. The front door burst open. 2 masked men entered, rifles raised. Before they could fire, a third gunshot echoed from outside. Precise and clean. One attacker fell instantly. The other turned, but another shot took him down. The headlights stopped at the porch. Jordan stepped out, rifle in hand, rain glistening on his jacket. "You all right?" he shouted. Clara nodded, trembling. "Barely." Jordan motioned them toward the truck. "We've got to move. Holloway's men will regroup any minute." Liam grabbed his laptop and the last of their equipment. They piled into the truck, speeding into the darkness. As they drove through the winding forest roads, Clara finally found her voice. "How did they know we were there?" Jordan's jaw tightened. "There's a leak somewhere. Someone from Ethan's old unit." Travis's voice crackled through the radio. "Jordan, you're not gonna like this. I found something on the backup data from Ethan's drive. A name." Jordan glanced at Clara, then grabbed the mic. "Who?" Static filled the line before Travis answered. "Wyatt Lang, detective, Holloway's right hand. But that's not all. He was on Helios's private security payroll, too." Clara's blood ran cold. "He's the one who planted the drugs." "He was there the night Ethan died." Jordan nodded grimly. "Then he's our next target. We find Lang, we find the truth." As the truck disappeared into the misty night, Maya stirred awake in the back seat. "And Clara," she murmured, half asleep. "When will they stop hurting us?" Clara brushed her hair gently. "Soon, sweetheart." Very soon. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance, and the first drops of rain began to fall again. A quiet reminder that in Hollow Ridge, storms never truly ended, and somewhere in a high-rise office, Senator Knox poured himself a glass of whiskey and smiled. "Let them run," he whispered to himself. "The higher they climb, the harder they'll fall." The storm rolled over Hollow Ridge like an omen. Thunder cracked across the sky, shaking windows and bending the trees as if nature itself demanded justice. Inside a small diner on the outskirts of town, Jordan Reed sat in a corner booth. His cap pulled low, eyes fixed on the door. Rain dripped from his jacket, forming a small pool beneath his boots. The clock above the counter ticked loudly, a reminder that every minute they waited, the danger grew. Across from him sat Clara Cole, exhausted but determined. She held a manila folder containing what little remained of Ethan's files. Beside her, Liam Porter scrolled through decrypted data on his laptop, and Maya dozed quietly against her aunt's shoulder. Jordan leaned forward. "Lang's still in Hollow Ridge. He's been hiding in an old ranger station up by the quarry, same place Helios used to store their shipments." Clara's brows furrowed. "Then that's where the final proof is," Jordan nodded. "We take him alive. He talks, we bring everything to the press, and not the cops, not the courts. Straight to the people." Liam looked up. "You realize what that means, right? We'll have every badge in the state hunting us down." Jordan's voice hardened. "They already are." Later that night, the Reaper unit regrouped at the edge of the forest. The rain had turned the dirt road into thick mud, and the air was heavy with the scent of pine and diesel. Travis Kane, Rico Santos, and Nate Briggs, All former SEALs, each with haunted eyes, checked their gear in silence. "This isn't war," Travis muttered, loading his rifle. "Feels like it, though?" Jordan shook his head. "No, war was simpler. At least there. You knew who the enemy was." Clara stood beside him, her coat soaked through but her eyes burning with resolve. "If this works, Holloway and Knox are finished." "The people will see what they did," Jordan gave a grim smile. "Then let's make sure it works." The team moved under the cover of darkness, following the narrow path toward the abandoned ranger station. The structure loomed like a shadow among the trees, its windows shattered, its walls covered in moss and bullet holes. Jordan raised a hand, signaling the others to halt. He whispered into his earpiece, "A thermal scan, 2 inside." "Got them," Travis replied. "One's pacing near the window. Others at a desk." "Lang," Jordan muttered. They approached silently, boots sinking into the wet earth. A sudden flicker of light flashed from inside. The glint of a gun. Jordan took a deep breath. "Move." The door burst open. "Hands where I can see them," he shouted. Detective Wyatt Lang spun from the desk, pistol half raised, but froze when he saw the rifles pointed his way. His hair was unkempt, his face gaunt. Guilt and fear had aged him years. "You," Clara said through clenched teeth. "You killed my brother." Lang's jaw tightened. "No, I followed orders. Whose?" Jordan barked. Lang hesitated, then pointed toward a small drive on the table. "That has everything, the contracts, the bribes, the cover-ups. Holloway made me destroy the rest. He said it was national security." Jordan grabbed the drive. "And the dumping sites?" Lang's eyes flickered. "All listed in there. But you don't understand. Knox owns half the state. If you go after him, you're dead." Clara stepped forward. "We already are." Lang opened his mouth to respond, but a red dot suddenly appeared on his chest. "Sniper!" Travis shouted. Before anyone could react, the shot rang out. Lang collapsed instantly, blood blooming across his shirt. Jordan ducked behind the desk, dragging Clara down. "They found us!" Travis returned fire through the shattered window. "2 shooters in the tree line. Rico, flank left. Nate, cover the rear." Bullets tore through the cabin, splintering the walls. Maya screamed from her hiding spot behind a crate. Jordan crawled to her, wrapping his arms protectively around the trembling girl. "You're safe, I promise," he whispered, though his voice trembled with doubt. Outside, the forest erupted with gunfire, a chaos of light and thunder. One by one, the Reapers retaliated, forcing the attackers back. But it was clear, this wasn't a simple kill order. It was an execution team. Clara reached for the hard drive that had fallen from the table, clutching it to her chest. "We can't lose this." Jordan grabbed her hand. "Go, get Maya to the truck. I'll cover you." "No, Jordan, go!" he shouted, firing another round toward the tree line. Clara hesitated, then scooped Maya into her arms and ran. Liam followed close behind, dragging a duffel bag full of evidence. Travis covered their retreat, laying suppressive fire until his clip ran dry. "They're clear," he yelled, but as Jordan turned to follow, he saw movement. A figure stepping out from the darkness, aiming directly at Clara. Without thinking, Jordan dove forward. The shot was fired. Pain exploded through his shoulder. He crashed into the mud, groaning. Travis returned fire, dropping the shooter instantly. "Jordan!" "I'm fine," Jordan gasped, clutching his wound. "Go after them. Make sure Clara gets out." Travis hesitated, then nodded, disappearing into the forest. 15 minutes later, the Reapers regrouped near the trucks. Jordan stumbled out of the woods, bleeding but alive. Clara was there, tears streaking her rain-soaked face. "You're hit," she cried. "Just a graze," he said with a faint grin. "Lang's dead, but we got the drive." Liam connected the device to his laptop, and the screen flickered to life. Files loaded, photographs, contracts, wire transfers. It was all there, holy hell, Travis whispered. "This is enough to bury them all." Jordan looked toward the horizon where dawn began to break. "Then that's what we'll do." Back in town, Captain Holloway stood in his office staring at a monitor showing drone footage of the firefight. "Lang's down," his lieutenant said. "But they've got the data." Holloway didn't flinch. "Then it's time to finish it. Call Knox." He turned toward the window, lightning flashing across his face. "They think they've won," he said quietly. "But I built this town, and I'll burn it before I let them take it." Hours later, At a hidden safe house near the coast, Clara sat beside Jordan as the others prepped the files for a live broadcast. Maya slept nearby, her small hand clutching Ethan's dog tags. Clara whispered, "Tomorrow we end this." Jordan nodded, watching the storm fade over the horizon. Yeah, tomorrow Hollow Ridge finally hears the truth. Outside, the first rays of sunlight touched the sea, soft, golden, and uncertain, as if even the morning was holding its breath for what was to come. The morning light crept slowly across the horizon, brushing over the battered coast where the Reaper unit had taken refuge. For the first time in weeks, Hollow Ridge was silent. No gunfire, no sirens, only the steady hum of the ocean against the rocks. Inside the safe house, Clara Cole sat before a laptop surrounded by cables, transmitters, and screens. Her hands shook slightly as she typed in the final sequence to launch the live broadcast. Liam Porter stood beside her, monitoring the feed. Across the room, Jordan Reed, his shoulder bandaged from the firefight, loaded his last magazine and placed it on the table beside Ethan's photo. "Once we go live," Liam warned, "there's no going back." "They'll trace the signal," Clara nodded firmly. "Then let them. Truth shouldn't hide anymore." Maya sat on the couch nearby, wearing her father's dog tags around her neck. She looked up at Clara with innocent determination. "Aunt Clara, when people see Daddy's story, will they believe?" Clara knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "They won't just believe, Maya. They'll remember." As the clock struck 9, the broadcast went live across the nation. Screens flickered in diners, homes, police stations, and government offices. The headline read, "Live, the truth about Hollow Ridge, exclusive evidence." Clara appeared on screen, her voice calm but fierce. "My name is Clara Cole. My brother, Ethan Cole, was murdered by the Hollow Ridge Police Department. They said it was a routine stop. They lied." Footage rolled. Ethan's dash cam showing the illegal arrest. Holloway's falsified reports. Helios defense contracts signed by Senator Bradley Knox himself. Photos of chemical barrels near schoolyards and waterways. As the evidence poured in, gasps and murmurs spread through living rooms and city streets. Protesters gathered outside the Capitol within minutes chanting Ethan's name. Back in Hollow Ridge, Captain Holloway stormed into the precinct yelling orders. "Shut it down. Pull the broadcast." "It's too late," a deputy stammered. "It's on every platform, global feed." Holloway's face turned red with rage. "Then get me Knox, now." In his office, Senator Knox watched the broadcast in disbelief. His phone rang incessantly. Reporters, donors, and lawyers all calling at once. Sweat gathered on his forehead. He slammed his fist on the desk. "How the hell did they get that footage?" His aide whispered, trembling, "Sir, the FBI just issued a warrant. They're on their way." Knox froze, realizing that the empire he built on silence and fear was finally crumbling. "No," he whispered. "Not like this." Meanwhile, the Reaper unit's signal tracker began to beep rapidly. "They found us," Liam said. Jordan grabbed his rifle. "We expected that. We just need 5 more minutes to finish the upload." Travis and Rico moved to guard the windows. As black SUVs appeared at the edge of the property, men in tactical gear poured out, advancing through the mist. Bullets shattered the silence again. The final stand had begun. Jordan fired from behind the doorway, shouting, "Keep the feed alive!" Clara ducked behind the desk, shielding the laptop as glass exploded above her. "It's almost done." A bullet grazed Liam's arm, but he didn't stop typing. Just 30 seconds. Jordan's radio crackled. "Backup's coming," Nate's voice called out from the cliffs above. "Hold your ground." Travis launched a smoke grenade outside, clouding the attacker's sight. The Reapers moved like ghosts, trained, silent, precise. Through the chaos, Clara watched the progress bar reach 99%, then 100%. The files were transferred. The truth was free. She exhaled shakily. "It's done." Jordan smiled through the smoke. "Then it's over." A single flash of light, a grenade detonated nearby. The blast threw them all to the floor. When Clara opened her eyes, the sound of sirens filled the distance. She turned and saw Jordan lying nearby, bleeding heavily. "No, no, stay with me," she cried, pressing her hand against his wound. Jordan gave a faint smile. "Looks like we finally did it." Tears blurred her vision. "You can't leave now." We still have to, he interrupted softly, tell Maya. Her father was right. Truth always wins, even if it costs everything. And with that his hand fell limp. Clara screamed, not in fear but in grief and fury. The sirens grew louder as federal vehicles pulled in. Agents swarmed the site, arresting the men who had come to silence them. The battle was over. The truth had survived. Days later, news anchors across the nation reported the fallout. Senator Bradley Knox, arrested on corruption and conspiracy charges. Captain Dean Holloway, found dead after a failed attempt to flee the state. Julius Defense Corporation, under federal investigation for environmental crimes. Ethan Cole's name filled headlines. His story became a symbol of justice reclaimed. At the town square, people gathered for a memorial. Children carried candles, veterans saluted, and a bronze plaque was unveiled. In memory of Ethan Cole, a father, a soldier, a truth that could not be buried. Clara stood beside Maya as the crowd sang softly. The little girl held Ethan's dog tags tightly, her eyes reflecting both sorrow and pride. After the ceremony, she planted a small sapling near the river her father once tried to protect. The soil was still dark, still healing, but life had returned. Clara knelt beside her and whispered, "He'd be proud of you." Maya looked up. Will they forget him someday? Clara smiled faintly through tears. Not as long as this tree stands. They watched as the leaves fluttered in the gentle wind, the river glimmering beneath the afternoon sun. Later that evening, as dusk painted the sky orange, Clara sat alone on the porch of her brother's old home. The town was peaceful again. No more helicopters, no more gunfire, only the quiet hum of cicadas and the faint echo of Ethan's laughter in memory. She closed her eyes and whispered, "You were right, Ethan. The silence didn't last forever." And for the first time in months, the wind that swept through Hollow Ridge didn't carry fear or grief. It carried hope, a quiet, steady echo of truth that would never fade. Final ending words. Sometimes justice doesn't roar, it whispers, but when it does, the world listens.